The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real because that's how powerful our minds are.
I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is.
Don't think, feel. It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
What was the best moment of your life?
I've thought about that on my own before, and I think it's really hard to narrow that down to the best, because I think your capacity for deciding what's the best and worst it's liquid. Hopefully the best moments of my life are still in front of me. You know what I mean? If you want me to give you like an event, I think that's what you're asking for, right? Like you know that philosophically we'd all like to believe that the best is ahead of us. But if you want like a best of moment, it's probably, man, I can give you a few. Actually, I don't think there's a best.
Comes to mind first.
I think it's a series of anytime there are achievements. I know that, and maybe this will sound superficial, but I don't care. The first time I bench pressed 300 pounds, that was like a huge. I saw people all around me much stronger get to that way younger. I think I was probably in my 30s, when maybe 30. God, how old? I'm 37 now, so that was probably only about 5 or 6 years ago.
Wow.
So 31.
Yeah.
That was huge because it was just a milestone that always seems so far away when you're just starting out. When I got signed with Boss Models in New York in 2003.
That must have been cool.
That was, well, because it wasn't a chance. It wasn't ever like these moments just happened and I'm like, oh, I got so lucky. Like
You hustled.
I made that happen.
Yeah.
The whole reason for trying to do male modeling in the first place was because my bandmates didn't want to go on tour. And so I wanted to be a rock star. So another great moment might have been that first gig that I played in a club in Austin and got paid for it. It might have been that first tour I went on with my, bandmates, a different band. When I completed my first record, that was a best of moment. But when I finished and had my installation of paintings, that was probably my most recent, like, super thrilled best of moment where I was like, I don't think I've had a moment better than this. And then you go, well, but how does it compare on the scale to, doing a nude photo shoot in Paris with a beautiful girl and getting paid 25 grand for it? Like that's good times. But it's all for completely different reasons. And it's hard for me to say best of because it's such a broad scale.
Yeah.
I really, and this is, God, again, I feel like I need to qualify everything, but I got to stop doing that. I'm learning Mandarin in the mornings, and it is so satisfying to create new neural pathways, if that's indeed what's happening. When I feel like I'm learning stuff, there's very few things that compare to that.
No, good for you.
Like an orgasm is awesome. Oh, that was a best of day and one that I still think of. I had 11 orgasms in 12 hours, and I thought that was like, I was like, nothing will ever touch that, because that is such carnal Olympian pleasure that I don't really see topping it. And so I'm like, well, how could anything be that pleasurable? I've already done 11 in 12 hours. It's crazy. I'm shooting blanks by halfway through. Where was I going with this? Sorry, now I'm thinking about that. I'm like, that was pretty awesome. It's a lot of them, man. There's no single moment that stands out, and I hope the way that's always, how it'll be for me.
Yeah, dude, may your life be filled with many more, bud.
Many more best of moments, and I think by aspiring to be a polymath and interested in a bunch of different things, I'll have those opportunities much more. But what about you? What's your best of moment? What's the best moment of your life?
Same as you do. There's been many. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna lie, be straight up and say that of the 10 or so I could probably remember, at least 5 of those were under the influence of MDMA or something similar. But yeah, dude, I've had loads of those moments. I don't know if you ever get that, especially if you've been meditating a lot and you're healthy and you've been doing your workouts and eating well and sleeping well, and you're physiologically you're in a good place, and you're in a good place mentally. And sometimes I'll just be walking and I'll just catch a glimpse of something beautiful in nature, or not even necessarily in nature. I might be at a busy intersection. That happens quite a lot in cities. I'll be in like a busy city. I'll have just arrived in Bangkok or New York or Paris or wherever, and I'll go for a walk by myself, and I love putting on this one particular piece of ambient music, which is called A Circular Quest by a producer called Alio D. And I walk around and it's almost like I'm watching a movie, and I'll have these very peak experiences where I'm just, as I said, standing in the middle of maybe even a crowd of people at a busy intersection. And I'm just like, hey, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm conscious, it's right now. It's so good to be human, and I wonder if I'll ever come back here again. You know what I mean? And I mean, that's what my whole life is, dude. I don't know about you, but my whole life is trying to make it one big, long moment like that. Or at least make the space between those moments shorter. Otherwise, I read this article a long time ago, and this guy, it was so influential in my psyche, dude. And this guy was explaining, I think it was the average life of a Western male. And he said, yeah, average guy wakes up next to his wife, who he's been married to for 6.6 years, and goes to his job that he's been doing for X amount of time. And then he has 22.3 days of holiday a year. And it basically listed out an average life with these average moments of peak experience, which might be, okay, his wedding day, the day his kid's born, the day he gets a raise, whatever, you know. And then also there were these valley moments, which is like the death of a family member, etc., etc. And I just, like, my whole thing has always been to try to make more of those peaks and less of the valleys, and have the peaks closer together, or maybe just one long plateau that I can stay on. But having said that, thinking about it now, I guess that's what everyone's trying to do, right? That's pretty much everyone's trying to avoid pain and seek pleasure. So I don't know, dude. Yeah.
I've been waiting for a good place to interject. I'm going to go ahead and change my answer to yours, because that just sounds so much more progressive and spiritually evolved. And I think I'm not changing it, by the way, but I find it's interesting that I'm so tied to physical, visceral moments of execution and achievement in terms of like what pops up in my mind first. Because certainly what you describe is something that I feel on a daily basis, only I don't weight those moments the way that I should, and the way that you're describing. Like, they should, that kind of awareness of the now, of the moment, of the space and time and environment, and your connection and your space and nature, is probably the most important awareness that you can, cultivate.
I would agree. Yeah.
And the fact that I don't equate the best moments of my 11 orgasms is my answer. This is bullshit. Like, I wish I could erase that. I should have been like, that time I meditated and saw the amber cocoon and followed it down and felt like I was time traveling. It's a way better answer for digital communion, but
well, there's no right or wrong answer. And there have been many times, many peak experiences in my life that have been directly related to a specific achievement.
Sure, sure.
Which ties into my next question, and that is, if you could choose to set your life at a constant 7, so just feeling pretty damn good all the time, pretty damn good, but at the cost of the 10s or the potential 10s or best moments of your life that we just discussed, would you do so?
Not a chance. Who would do that? Who doesn't want to taste the 10, even if it's worth a lifetime of, I think actually most people, they live somewhere between 3s and 7s, right? There's your average at a 5. And it doesn't matter. If you get a taste of that 10, whether it's from an MDMA trip or achieving something, a goal that you created for yourself, or God forbid 11 orgasms, if that's your life goal, I mean, that is, that's everything. What about you? Would you be a constant 7?
I don't know. I've thought of, nah, fuck that, dude. Fuck that. No, I want,
Exactly.
if you'd said constant 8, I probably would have taken that.
Yeah.
Seven,
Take it 8.
It's interesting. It brings me to, or it often relates in my mind to a specific philosophical question that I've had for many years, which is, on the whole, I mean, you've heard that expression: for every pleasure there is a pain, and for every pain there is a pleasure, and that on the whole, life is supposed to balance out, right? So the guy who is the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, he may be able to print every single cheerleader every night of the year and be driving a Lamborghini and everything else, but it comes with its own set of stresses and issues and pressures. And is he, on the whole, is his experience the same? And when I say the same, I mean as in terms of enjoyment and pain and suffering and pleasure, as the street sweeper who, I don't know, is living on $1,000 a month somewhere and just, I don't know, has never been with a woman in his life, whatever it is, whatever your metrics are, like. And I don't know, sometimes I think yes, and then sometimes I think, no, that's ridiculous. Life isn't fair at all. Some people have an amazing experience here on this planet, and some people have a shitty experience on this planet. I don't know, what do you think?
I think that all the carnal pleasures are really great when you're younger, or if you've never experienced them before. But a really smart guy once told me even fun gets old. And I remember him telling me that. I was like, I guess if you don't know how to have it. But as I've, gotten older, I'm like, oh, I guess that's true. Like, whatever you think is the best thing in the world, if you do it enough, it loses its luster.
Yeah.
And all those things, look, if you get a lot of that all the time, like I see young celebrities doing, or musicians, sort of the hedonistic lifestyle, whatever that is, there's a reason everybody burns out on it. Because it's like, how many bottle service nights can you have where you hook up and it's really awesome for a while, but then it just sort of loses its luster, and all that stuff makes you incomplete if you don't get the spiritual awareness that you're describing. Just being in awe of nature and having those moments where you are like, holy shit, I'm part of this massive system, and it will continue without me. And the fact that I get to be here just for this short amount of time is the most beautiful thing that there is. That's the realization that I think all the carnal pleasures, without that realization are just sort of wasted.
Agreed. That's a great way to put it. I agree with you completely. But still, I'm going to keep chasing the 10s.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know, and it's really interesting that the 10 moments that they get to change. Like, I feel like I've kind of tapped it out with food, and I used to be I fancy myself a big foodie, right? Like, I wanted to go to all the best restaurants, and I wanted to try, all the hottest chefs' foods, and pork belly was all the rage a few years ago. As an ingredient, and then the next year it was this, and you go to all the spots and Michelin-starred restaurants, and now I'm like,
yeah,
how many fantastic meals can I have before I go back to like the simplicity of what it's about, and it's more about the experience, and just it all probably comes back to that in the end. And you and I have talked about that before, or at least we mentioned it briefly, that you know, when you're a young person, you're chasing these things, and when you're in your middle age, you're looking at something different. And I feel like once you start to get older, which we're not at all, but I have inklings of what it's going to be like to be older, where you just sort of like, yeah, I remember doing that and it was pretty good, but now things have shifted and this is the new 10.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is the new 10 for you? What's the next 10 you're chasing?
It's a good question. Dude, always comes back to freedom for me. It's that one moment where I'm just free of not just physical concerns such as aches and pains or concerns about money or business or everything, but also psychological baggage or psychological just that. Do you know what I used to do when I was a kid, man? We had a swimming pool, pretty deep swimming pool, and I used to run and do what you guys in the States, I think you call it a cannonball.
Sure.
Yeah, in South Africa we used to call it a bomb drop, right? You jump in and curl yourself up in a little ball. And I used to do that, and I used to jump into the pool, curl up nice and tight, and close my eyes, and then just exhale completely all the air out of my body, and then
sink right to the bottom.
Sink. And there was a moment between after you had started to sink and before you'd hit the bottom, where you were just weightless, and the water temperature was just perfect, and it was just like, okay, this is it, dude. This is, if I could make life feel like this all the time.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's the ultimate 10, is just being in the flow, feeling free and unhindered, and just, does that make sense?
Well, it sounds like you need to take up surfing.
Yeah, I probably do, man. I probably do.
No, there's not like one endeavor activity that you're like, yes, the next chapter will involve skydiving or scuba diving or mountaineering, or it seems to me for you, being a physical guy, it would be some sort of physical pursuit, but maybe I'm way off there.
Perhaps, man. I mean, for me, my idea of bliss is having a house that I own free and clear, that my friends, like 3 of my closest friends, can just come and stay in whenever they want, and having a big screen TV, and we all have motorbikes, and we go do whatever we want, and just, not having to worry about checking my websites or any of that stuff. Just like, and I know that day is coming. It might be 5, 10, or 15 years away, but I'm working on it. And I'm enjoying myself on the way as well, which is important, because I remember that the 25-year-old Nick or the 20-year-old Nick, he was so thinking of the future that he could never really enjoy the journey, to get there.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure, dude. I do know that one of those peak 10 experiences is going to happen when you are with me in Vegas next weekend. Or the weekend after.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's the weekend after, yeah.
By the time this airs, you will either be the undefeated champion of the world or with one defeat.
Or at a constant 2, lying in a corner and full of my own vomit. Hey, but it was a really good conversation. If those listening at home or wherever you are enjoyed it, guys, please just head over to iTunes and leave us a cool review. It really does mean a lot to us, and it's what keeps us going. And also, as Thomas said last week, just get in touch if there's stuff you want to hear us talk about. Make a comment on the Facebook page or send us an email from the contact form on our website.
In the meantime, 11 times, motherfuckers, beat that.
I'm tapping out. There's no way.
Bye.
See ya.